Hi. Welcome to the exciting Globe Labs. In this video, we're going to talk about EU environmental regulation, as they have been gaining massive attention lately. So today, we investigated further on this topic and will be discussing the deep story. Make sure to watch all the way to the end of this video because this story will absolutely be shocking and astonishing. So without further ado, let's dive right in. And before we start, smash that subscribe button for more videos like this in the future. Why is the EU so serious about saving the Earth? Of course, it could be because individual citizens are so active in protecting the environment. But is it all about such beauty? There is also this aspect. Environmental regulations in the EU are much stricter than in other regions. It is also the reason why the EU is a leader in the international community in relation to climate change. The problem is that all European factories are moving to other regions because of environmental regulations. It doesn't end there. Cheap goods come back to the EU from the factories that have moved there. As a result, companies in the EU are experiencing more difficulties. As a result, more and more companies are going out of business. You are going through this vicious cycle. How do we solve this problem? Very simply, we should break our sincerity about the Earth. But that's not something that can be broken. Then companies outside the EU would have to be subject to the same level of regulation. Most of the recent environmental regulations introduced by the EU are of this nature. Let's look at them one by one. The most notable is the regulation of eco-design. In fact, this has been around since 2009. It started like this. Energy efficiency is how much electricity you use, how much water do you use, etc. This information is displayed on the label attached to the product. To put it simply, you have to indicate on the label whether you are serious about saving the Earth or not. This energy label is attached to home appliances such as dishwashers, washing machines, refrigerators, TVs and monitors. They've been adding more information to this over time. In the event of a breakdown, how long can parts be obtained and repaired? How much carbon is emitted? Consumers can easily check this information through a QR code. But is it just a simple label and does it work? The EU evaluates itself this way. When compared to 2015, the home appliances electricity consumption decreased by 9% in 2020. Even if the system is maintained until 2019, it is possible to save about 38 terawatt-hours of electricity annually by 2030. How much is this? This is the same amount of electricity that Hungary uses each year. It's amazing. We simply attached a label, and we were able to reduce power consumption so dramatically. Europeans seem really serious about saving the planet. So, in 2019, we came up with guidelines to add 5 products here and strengthen them by adding standards. Information such as recyclability has been added. Then, it was calculated that by 2030, 94 terawatt-hours of less electricity could be used annually. This is equivalent to the annual electricity used by Belgium and Luxembourg. If electricity consumption is reduced, the power plant operates less, which naturally reduces carbon emissions. If the calculation is like this, the correct answer would be to strengthen regulations. So, in March of last year, EU announced an amendment that drastically strengthens this regulation. There is more information that needs to be disclosed, such as durability. Starting this year and ending in 2024, we plan to add 31 target items. First of all, it is expected to include smartphones and wireless chargers. Electric vehicles are also within range. What if sellers don't attach it? Then they can't sell your stuff in the EU. So, eco-design means that a product must be designed to contain this information from the initial stage. For example, the smartphone Galaxy S sold by Samsung Electronics. Now, Samsung Electronics doesn't care about these things and just sells them. However, if a smartphone is added, it will not be sold in the EU unless it contains the information in detail and allows consumers to check it. Of course, global companies such as Samsung Electronics and LG Electronics say there is no big problem. It's something they've already done. There is nothing that the Galaxy S cannot be sold in Europe. But the problem remains. The EU is saying that it will eventually apply all eco-design regulations to most physical items, except for food and medicine. It is still unknown what will be added to the 31 items. Samsung or LG have already done it, so it won't be that difficult. What if the company is not ready? Moreover, what if you are a small business? It's all going to cost. In the end, if sellers sell things to the EU, it means they have to spend more money. this is not the end. There is also a plastic tax. As the EU has already used packaging plastic from 2021, each member state is required to pay a levy. 0.8 euros per 1 kilogram. In this way, the EU collects between 6 and 8 billion euros every year. Until last year, most governments paid this levy with their finances. The company didn't have to pay. But this year, things have changed. This is because Spain introduced a plastic tax from January 1st, requiring manufacturers and importers to pay 0.45 euros per 1 kilogram. Non-recyclable plastic packaging, semi-finished plastic for packaging, and plastic packaging used for shipping or transportation are also covered. Until now, the government paid for it, but now the company pays for it. Although not a member of the EU, the UK has already imposed a tax on packaging plastics such as plastic bags since last year. If Solur's recycled plastic is less than 30% of your total, they will have to pay 0.2 pounds per kilogram. This has been expanded to Spain, and Italy is also planning to implement it in 2024. Poland and the Netherlands are also considering introducing it. The carbon border adjustment system is also a tricky regulation. It is a kind of carbon tax on companies that import steel, aluminum, cement, fertilizer, electricity, and hydrogen. It is not being introduced right away, but a pilot introduction is scheduled for October this year. Why do these regulations? The EU has strong carbon regulations. So, many manufacturing companies are moving their factories overseas to cut costs. In fact, companies that make things like steel or aluminum outside the EU have a much lower carbon cost than companies in the EU. But do these two compete in the EU market? Then, of course, the company that pays less carbon costs wins, right? That's why all EU companies go abroad. The carbon border adjustment tax is intended to level this irrational playing field. First of all, from October, it is mandatory to report only carbon emissions for the next 3 years. From 2026, if sellers emit more than the EU has set, they will have to buy an emission certificate. It is the same as a company in the EU buying carbon credits. In a similar context, the supply chain due diligence system is scheduled to take effect this year as the final law. What is this? The EU takes ESG, environment social governance, issues very seriously. What does ESG means? ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance. It is a framework for evaluating the sustainability and ethical impact of a company or investment. The environmental aspect considers a company's impact on the environment, the social aspect considers how it interacts with stakeholders, and the governance aspect considers how it is run. Considering ESG factors is important for promoting sustainable and ethical business practices. So, companies within the EU are subject to all that strict regulation, and on the contrary, companies outside the EU are free. So, the supply chain due diligence system requires that companies in the EU look at all of these when transacting with companies outside the region. France and Germany already have similar laws in place. France has been doing it since 2017. Germany introduced it this year. In fact, some companies are already doing it on their own. BMW conducts supply chain ESG due diligence on 2,300 suppliers annually. Termination of contracts with troubled companies. In fact, it is said that over the past 3 years, it has terminated contracts with an average of 150 partners per year. Siemens is also using a similar policy. The point is, if ESG goes bad, you won't be able to sell it in the European market. You can't even do business with companies based in Europe. The good news is that EU environmental regulations aren't too sudden. The US rolls out regulations at a breakneck pace. One day, the Inflation Reduction Act, IRA, was suddenly created, and the next year after the announcement, it was implemented. Compared to that, the EU can be seen as giving companies plenty of time to prepare. And even though there are trade barriers, the justification is to save the earth, so companies can't not follow. Of course, the EU also comes up with rather thuggish regulations. The offshore subsidy regulation, which is set to take effect in July this year, is the main character. The draft was announced in May of last year, and there are only 4 months left until implementation. It is a sudden regulation that is very American. At its core, it is similar to a carbon border tax or supply chain due diligence. Countries around the world are pouring out subsidies these days. This is because the World Trade Organization, WTO, which was supposed to prevent such unfair trade practices, has been neutralized. CHIPS law is a prime example. The cash grant alone is $39 billion, and the total amount of aid is about $280 billion. From July, if you want to take over a company of a certain size or more in Europe or participate in the public procurement market, you must report the details of subsidies received from countries other than the EU in the previous 3 years. Anything that will be received in the future must be pre-approved. So, if it is judged that the subsidy received from outside harms market competition, M&A will not be allowed and it will not be allowed to enter the public procurement market. If sellers submit false documents or do not report it, they may have to pay a penalty of 1 to 10% of sales. And another one. It is also said that it will have the authority to investigate directly. Regardless of M&A or public procurement markets. It is a product that is being sold in the EU, but if it is judged to be cheap because of overseas subsidies, it will be investigated. Companies from the United States, Japan, Australia and India have also recently submitted statements to the European Commission that the regulation is too strict. It is said that there is also an evaluation that the EU executive is stepping back. Well, of course, we'll know when the results come out. Did you enjoy this story? If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this in the future. Also, be sure to turn on the bell notification so you never miss any of our videos. So, what do you think about this topic? Did you get shocked by this topic? Let us know what you think in the comment section down below. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching.